Hi, I'm Virginia Stanley, Director of Library Marketing at HarperCollins Publishers. Today I'm sitting here with David Highfill, Executive Editor at William Morrow. David is the editor of books such as Elmore Leonard, Guillermo del Toro, and Captain Sully Sullenberger. David's latest project is Possessed, The Life of Joan Crawford, and he's here to tell us why we need to know about this book. Hi, David.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. So the story of Joan Crawford is interesting to me because when we would watch her on film, these great movies of hers we still see today, she has so much ferocity, she has so much power. A little intimidating, a little scary, but it was fun to think about a great film historian like Donald Spoto talking about her as a real person, someone behind the screen as well as on the screen. She was known as a pretty fierce customer. She worked really hard, but she was much more sympathetic than I think a lot of people think she might have been. Her daughter's memoir, Mommy Dearest, makes her out to be this monster, this really evil woman in a lot of ways. And that wasn't the whole story. She was tough, but yet she was really smart, and she was very much a feeling woman who suffered for the work that she did. She wanted kids. I think that's something that a lot of people don't know. She really wanted to adopt kids. She had 4 marriages that were rocky, and part of her pursuit in her personal life was a way to adopt kids and raise them, and that was really important to her. She also had a 30-year-long on and off affair with Clark Gable, which, all the books I've read, I'd never heard that before. But they were passionate lovers, I guess, at one point in that relationship. But they also became just really, really close friends. They made movies together early, and they made movies together later in her career. But they were so close that it was Clark Gable who went to see Joan Crawford when his wife Carol Lombard died in a plane crash. We all remember how sad that was, and he was bereft, obviously. But he went to Joan Crawford because he was his closest friend to say, kind of help me through this, and wanted to be with a friend, which I think is remarkable. There are lots of directors in this book who talk about what she was like to work with. And one of them is George Cukor, who's a famous director, who talks about her on the set of The Women. And she played Crystal, the shopkeeper, you remember, who was just bitchy, kind of a bad woman, not the most sympathetic character. But Cukor said that she never hid when she was playing a role like that. That a lot of famous actresses would pretend they were a bad girl, but you would see them popping out behind the scenery and saying, "I'm not really so bad. I'm a Hollywood, Hollywood star." But not Joan Crawford. She was so committed to her work and was so wholehearted about it. There was no pretense about it. It was who she was. So that kind of devotion and that kind of jumping in with both feet is something that I just thought was really interesting.
That's so great. That's so exciting. And that book is coming out in November, so everyone should look out for that book. And I know that you have another book that you want to mention.
I do. This one is a book by Tom Franklin. It's called Crooked Letter, Crooked Letter. And Tom has written several books for Morrow over the years, but this is one that we all feel just enormously proud of and fond of. Both for Tom, who's a great guy, and for this book, which is just capturing a lot of people's hearts. It's a kind of book that I feel like for librarians and their patrons, people can just really embrace in a big way. This is we just found out last week, is an Indie Next Pick, #1 Indie Next Pick.
Congratulations.
Which is thrilling. And there are a couple things I'll say about Tom. He grew up in a very rural Alabama town, so very small, 300 people in this town. He says he comes from a family of mechanics, so his uncle, his father, his cousins, his brothers were all mechanics. And he had in mind for a long time to write a novel about a mechanic who had no customers. There just weren't customers around for him, but yet a man who loved cars, loved machines, maybe a guy who was a little bit of a misfit that people didn't understand, and a guy who was not so talkative and not so friendly maybe, but people assumed things about him that might not be true. So that is a character who kind of shows up in this book in a big way. This book is about the friendship between 2 boys in the past and something very sad that happens in the present. This mechanic and a black guy who's a cop in this small town, and the ways in which the difference in race comes between them and is just a frightening, sad part of the story that these two characters, both of whom we love, have to figure out a way to solve and figure out. And it's just gripping, very heartwarming, and it's just a terrific read for so many different kinds of readers.
Well, I absolutely love this book, and I've been talking to librarians about it for what feels like a very long time. So I'm excited that the book, which is just about to come out on October 5th, so great things for Tom Franklin, and in the hands of David Highfill, how could wonderful things not happen for him. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to librarians about your books.
Always. Thanks, Virginia.